Welcome everyone, welcome to the channel, Stock Market Technical Analysis. All we really cover on this channel is stock charts and trade ideas. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to start off here with the triple Qs. Tech sector. All right, couple things going on. I'm looking at an hourly chart. We have a downtrend line or a potential downtrend line basically. And we're starting to break out to the upside of that trend line. So, I don't like that action as if you're shorting this thing, that to me doesn't look good. I'm actually flat right now. I'm looking for a rejection or a failure right here and right now. If we don't get it and we continue higher, then that might be all that there is when it comes to the selling in Qs. So I'm going to stay flat until I see some signal that we are going to get rejected in the Qs and fall back below 327.60 is really the key level. I want to see us break back down that 327.60, and then I'd probably reshort if we get that impulsive selling. I don't see it as of right now, so we could be going on to make another new high, basically. Something to watch. Or a potential back test of the broken trend line from March 2020 lows. Here's your daily chart, March 2020 lows right there. You can see we held support right there, held support right there. See the trend line? So we could be running up to do a back test or potentially do a back test and make a marginal new high, which would be another divergent high, but from below the trend line support. So that would be the area I'd likely be more interested in shorting, way up here at 345 or 344 if this continues to break out. As of right now, it's looking like it wants to go higher. I don't see any signs, so we're going to stay flat on this thing. SPY, again, just breaking higher on the hourly. We're pretty much at the top of this most recent range that we've been in, which is right up in this area. I kind of already have it marked out, but basically right in here. We should get rejected, but if we don't, then maybe there's some more upside to come. And the other thing to look at on the daily chart, really it's the weekly chart on SPY, is coming off the 2009 lows. You've got a trend line that's been established. This is your bull market trend line in the SPY. And we broke the bull market trend in 2018. And ever since then, there's just been massive volatility. So it hasn't just been a straight march up. It's been big moves down, big moves up, big moves down, big moves up. Very volatile. But you can see we've basically recovered that broken trend line. There's the trend line right there. And look at the buying volume. Look at the buying volume right here over the last 2 weeks. Every time we come down to that trend line and hit it, the buyers are right down there buying this thing back up. And they did it again this week. You can see just big buying wicks. So as long as we hold this trend line, we could have there could be a lot more upside or and that's just something I'm looking for. So on the bigger picture, a break below this trend line would be bearish. As long as we're above it and holding above it, and especially moving up, then we could see a blow off top or something like that in SPY. So that's the key level right there. I'm really keeping an eye on. IWM, looking at the hour. Well, we'll start off with the daily chart here on the small caps. IWM. March 2020 lows, you have a trend line right there, held support. We broke, and we've been back testing, and we just haven't got that resolution to the downside. I think we're going to get it, but again, we could back test again and then fail. There's no, we're right in the middle. We're below resistance, which is way up here, this ascending trend line, and support right here at about 205, right in the middle. So there's no real indication of which way you're going to go. When you're in the middle, we could run up and do a back test and then roll over. I do think we're going to roll over eventually down to 205. You have negative divergence in the RSI and the PPO, and you broke trendline support. So it's bearish. This chart's still bearish, even though we're getting a little bit of, kind of bouncing around in the last couple of days. Still looks good to me, although I would be more interested in trying to short this thing up here if we can get the back test. You run up and do a back test, start rejecting on that trend line right there. That's a good area to add or start a short, in my opinion. Okay, gold. Gold's continuing its upward march, just trending up. I don't see any signals or signs that that's going to stop. So Everything gold looks bullish from my perspective. Here's Agnico Eagle starting to break out again. Barrett Gold breaking higher. Everything's trending up. So there's no indication that we're stopping the uptrend. There's going to be pullbacks along the way, and I'm just viewing those pullbacks as opportunities to add at support. Until I see a sign that the uptrend in these miners are reversing or going to reverse, I'm just more interested in adding at support in what looks to be an ongoing bull market in the gold and gold mining stocks. Let's take a look at some of these individual stocks. Here's Starbucks. All right, clear uptrend line off the March 2020 lows right there. We did get a sell signal, so I think this thing's still going lower, although they're bouncing today, so it looks like they want to do some back testing of this trend line before they actually reject. That's okay. You know, as a swing trader, when you get a sell signal, you can take the position and you can add to a position as you do the back test. So typically the way that works is I'll build a position, and then when we start to roll over, I start to look at taking profit. We're just, bouncing today, but still below the trend. Negative divergence, see the RSI and the PPO, big negative divergence. The RSI doesn't have the best negative divergence, so that's one thing to kind of take note. But again, until we recover this broken support right here, I think we're likely going to drift lower. And that would be next level of support about 101.30, 101.50. Let's look at BYD, Boyd Gaming. All right, Boyd Gaming, clear uptrend line from the March 2020 lows, basically. Clean uptrend line. We had a sell signal and a breakdown. Looks like we're bear flagging. So if you don't know what a bear flag is, that's basically where you make a flagpole. Then you kind of move sideways on declining volume, typically. And you can see the volume's kind of declining right here. And then this pattern on average it's a continuation pattern where it continues to resolve to the downside. So you measure it out, something like that. I think it sets us up for a move down to about 51 and at least at a minimum 55, 55.40. So still looking for some more downside there, although we're just in the consolidation pattern, kind of grinding around. Until you see the break, continuation, and the breakdown, we can continue to consolidate. But again, negative divergence, clean break of this nice uptrend line. Everything tells me we're going lower next. Let's look at Deere, John Deere. All right, clean breakdown. This one actually is pretty weak today. Even though the market is rallying, this one's breaking down. So on Deere, uptrend line coming off March 2020 lows, clean uptrend line right there. We put in a divergent high, which means you made a new higher price, but the higher price was on less momentum. See, the momentum's way down here, whereas previously it was higher. So there's a divergent high. Then you look for a break of trend. There's your break of trend, kind of a back test, and another new low. So as far as I can tell, we're just downtrending. Now we could bounce here and run up to 366.70, but ultimately I think we're working our way lower. We're going to downtrend over time. Next level of support, 317.60. We break below that, we've got a level all the way down here at about 266.20. So that still looks good. We just have to let it do its thing. There's going to be bounces along the way. Here's a trade setup. Johnson Controls. I'm noticing some of these building material companies are starting to set up bearish. So on JCI, the thing that really stands out to me on the RSI and the PPO is big negative divergence on this daily chart right there. And you can see we have a nice clean uptrend off the March 2020 lows. And we're just, we just hit support yesterday, and we're, still holding that support. So what you'd want to wait for is a break of this trend line, some sort of an impulsive sell signal breakdown candle. And that would be your sell signal. We've got some support. I've got some support levels way down there, but it looks like we got a level right in here at about 47.90, I think would be a good target. Again, no reason to short this thing. No, there's no sell signal. We have to wait for that break, that impulsive break. You don't want to see it just barely break. You want to see a nice impulsive breakdown. That would be your sell signal. And then you just let it do its thing and downtrend. And this is the PKB. It's a construction ETF. And one thing I want to point out is we basically, there's no negative divergence, so that's not necessarily something that's showing up, but you do have this upward trend line right here, and we're just starting to crack it. Now, it's not that impulsive, so I don't take it as a sell signal, and potentially my trend line's off. I could slightly adjust it down here and just capture this point and this data point, and then this would be our third reaction. So I'm going to do that for now. I want to leave that as kind of my benefit of the doubt trend line right about there. But the point is, we're just barely treading the trend line in the area. So again, if you get a breakdown or a sell signal, that could mean more. That could mean a lot of these individual building material stocks are going to sell off, and that goes along with the home builders. So let's go into Toll Brothers. We saw a sell signal on this the other day. Here's the March 2020 lows, and you can see clean up trend line right there. Reaction there, reaction there. We got the breakdown or a sell signal, big impulsive candle. So damage has been done to this chart, and it is bearish. You also have negative divergence, which for some reason my lines got taken down, but there it is right there. Negative divergence on the RSI and the PPO, and you got the sell signal, a back test, a rejection. We're getting a little bounce today, but again, it's relatively muted on this daily chart. You're making downward moves, you bounce, you back test, go down more, slight bounce, but lower highs. So I think we're downtrending in this. I'm looking for about 50.45 in Toll Brothers as my target, and then the potential to actually hit all the way down to 40.61. That would probably be a final target on this one for me. And financials, XLF still holding its upward trend line. So that's where a lot of the strength has been at. And the S&P 500 is not going to sell off till we see a break in the financials. And so again, that's something to really hone in on and just make sure you're keeping an eye on the financials. One of these, there's lots of setups in the financials. Like this Ally Bank has a potential setup. You have a nice clean uptrend line right there, and you have you have negative divergence on the PPO and the RSI, but you have no break of trend. So clean uptrend line. I'm watching it. No break of trend or sell signal. So until you get that, you're not going to get it. But going back to the financials, we got to see that break of this trend line right here. And if we get that, I think it's going to be a pretty swift move down right now to about 30. About 31, we'll say. So we're going to keep an eye on that one. And MGM, daily chart, clean up trend line right there on MGM. Nice, lots of reactions along that trend line. Big negative divergence on the RSI and the PPO, and that's a very clean negative divergence. So we're still waiting for that sell signal, and you can see we're just barely holding support over the last week or so. We're just not able to really lift off that support. I think we're going to break. I don't know if it's going to come during the market open or during the open hours. Probably going to come in the form of a gap down. But you see that sell signal or that break, that's your sell. That would be your sell signal. First level of support in case we get that break. Maybe tomorrow. First level of support's about 31.92, and then you've got the next level of support about 23.54. So that 31.92 would be the level I'd be looking for as a bounce to take place. But I think we could easily sell down on that initial break right down to that level of support. And that's a drop of, well, we're probably not going to, that's 20% drop. We're not going to get there in one day, but if we break, I think we're likely going to start drifting towards that over a period of a few days. And that's a trade idea right there. So again, waiting for the break or the sell signal. Peloton is right at major resistance. You can see here on the daily chart, and this one's already started to trade out. Again, I pointed this short out right up here. I have it circled. This is where I shorted the thing, and the trade idea was, I gave everyone that trade idea on the channel. From the entry, basically it sold down almost 50%. So this one's running out, probably getting close to being done. But we're at major resistance right now, and you can see that level is about 98.53. That was resistance here, and it was support once we broke above. Support here, support here, support here. Then you sell down, and we're back testing right into that level. This is not a breakout candle above that resistance. If you look at the hourly, we're just barely kind of drifting above there. Nothing impulsive though, so I think we're likely going to get rejected here. Sell down, then maybe build some steam and pop it. But this area to me looks like an area that you could short and for a pullback. Again, just my opinion. We could break out, but as of right now, it doesn't look like that's a breakout candle. And we'll wrap up with Freeport-McMoRan. One of the subscribers asked me if Freeport-McMoRan looks like a good short, and I think there is a setup here for a short trade, but we don't have a trigger, so no reason to short right now. A couple things to watch. Look at the negative divergence there on the RSI, and you have the negative divergence on the PPO. If I can get my chart to line up right there, you can see if I zoom in on the PPO right here, we've turned down now. So we're confirming that negative divergence where the PPO is starting to, momentum starting to fade. Looking at the price, we've just continued to make higher highs. So this is divergent high price action right up in here. We've got a trend line to watch right here on the daily chart. It's basically, we've just been walking up that trend line, and I could probably adjust it slightly, but maybe adjust it down to about there. That's a little cleaner. So we need a break of this trend line. We need to see some sort of impulsive sell down. Until then, we're going to trend up. But the negative divergence is telling me we're going to break. If we break, this one has the potential to come down quite a bit. We could possibly come all the way down to this 1762 area. I don't know if we'll get that far down, but there's definitely potential for at least some sort of a pullback. So it looks like we got some support right in here, right in kind of that area in the 200-day. I'd probably trade this thing for a run down to tag the 200-day moving average. So we'll look at that, but potential setup, not an actionable trade yet. And that's really all I got for this video. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, get it out there, and we'll keep an eye out for any kind of price action.